Welcome back to another episode of Reusable Space Program. You find us just launching a Vanguard R. That is because in our last episode we had collected a capsule with a stranded Kerbal from pretty much the same orbital height as the Moon, and we brought it back to around Kerbin with our new Gemini recovery craft with its little grabber on the front. So we're going to sort that out today, and we've also got a lot of other things to do. We're going to pop around to the Moon and do some mining and things like that. But let's get on with it, shall we? So Gemini R gets into orbit. Nice and easy. It's pretty much the same flight plan that we had previously. So Gemini R, basically single stage to orbit with a little grabber in it and a cargo bay. The idea being that this thing should hopefully be able to just grab whatever is up there, and primarily its missions at the moment is R, which is the correct English for that. Its missions are to basically bring down capsules with crew in that we can use, because we're lacking crew, you know. And obviously we're a reusable program, we don't use crew and then dispose of them, but we're lacking crew, and we don't really want to have to just hire any random people. We like people that have invested, shall we say, emotionally and physically in the program. So that's why we're doing it. So we're putting this thing into an orbit, and we're looking to try and rendezvous with the Gemini craft from last time. And this thing is not going to dock with Gemini or anything like that. What we're going to do is we're just going to bring it nearby, and I had a little bit of trouble just orienting myself there, a little bit of issue. We're gonna just bring it around and hold it near Gemini, move towards Gemini, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to use the Gemini to do some of the maneuvers, because those engines, and this is actually incorrect, but at the time I was thinking, oh yeah, my nuclear engines are much more efficient, they've got a better ISP, so they should do the burning. The thing is, the nuclear engines are going to stay in orbit. The Vanguard R is going to go back down to the surface, so we'll refuel it or reuse it or whatever. So actually excess fuel on it is pointless. So we released that little capsule, and what we actually did was we pointed it towards the target, because the idea was when you release it, it's going to fly off potentially with a bit of energy. And now we're just going to try and catch it as it flies. It's a bit like using a catcher's mitt right now, and I'm trying to just move in there, and we just catch it, and then yeah, we didn't get a contact, which was annoying. It just sort of sits in there, and it's a case now of just thrusting up and down until we actually make it hit. There we go, and then we're gonna do that. We've managed to get it in there. So now the two craft have become one. We close up the compartments, and we're just going to bring this thing back down. And I've cut out a little bit of the orbit there because I just wanted to time some of the orbits out. You'll notice I've brought the solar panels in very late, actually. They should have been brought in a lot earlier than that. And I'm aiming now to get near the KSP, because we want to get as much funding back for these craft, if I choose to recover them, as possible. Alternatively, I could actually try and refuel them and refly them, which is something I'm thinking about, particularly this one. If we get it close enough and we get a tanker, we can just go out there with a grabber and refuel it. So we come down, and we're actually within a reasonable range of the KSP. So we've got a few craft now that we've landed nearby, and I'm not always recovering them every single time. So this comes down, parachutes go again. We would potentially want to have an engineer come out and repack those parachutes, or we want to do a repulsive landing, and this thing is tight on Delta V for repulsive landings, I think. So down it goes, sorted. Now, meanwhile, at the Moon, Wenrick Kerman is going to fill up his tanker. He's been parked there for a while. The mining program has been going on. He's going to connect up these Kerbal attachment system pipes, and he transfers the fuel, and then he's going to detach it. I cut that out because it really takes a long time just watching it fuel transfer across. And then, of course, because this is the improved tanker, the first tanker, it's actually the first tanker we've ever had. I don't know what you're talking about, second tanker. He can just he can climb up his ladder and get in. So why do we do that? Because we're going to get some fuel from down there. So we're taking our tanker craft, our Mun tanker, we're detaching it from the Mun Station 1. I know we don't have a second Mun Station, so it's probably just Mun Station, isn't it? And we're going to do our normal deorbit burn, where we're actually going to aim to do our first burn to bring us down to the far edge of the crater, and then we're going to refine that. And we're doing this with pretty much what we've identified as about the right fuel load, which is we've locked off some of those tanks. when we've emptied the tanker, and we basically, those outer tanks of just liquid fuel, we pretty much, the small ones we keep for the landing, and then the main central tanks there we just transfer off, so we don't have to transfer excess fuel up and down all the time. And we do same with RCS. We're letting our RCS run down a bit. We're actually transferring off and just putting a little bit in. So this should be just a normal landing. We just want to get nearby. And it is at this point that I start to think that maybe I've under RCS'd it and under fueled it, because I'm looking on the left hand side and thinking that tanker is awfully low on fuel, it looks like. And then I think to myself, no, you know what? The main tank has a lot of space in it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The RCS, yeah, the RCS is giving up right about now. We've got very little RCS, and I can't really orientate. I don't realize at this point why my craft is actually slower to orientate. RCS is gone. Final burn, bringing it down. And it's important that we put this one because we're just down. So we had 33 meters per second of fuel left in there and no RCS. We were a little dry, shall we say. So that is actually the almost perfect. If we landed with 0 meters per second left in it and no RCS, that would be perfect, as long as we don't crash, obviously. So that means that every drop of fuel that we brought down, we used, and we're not wasting fuel to bringing it down and taking it back up again. So because of that, Wenrick actually is going to have to do 2 trips, because this tanker is not big enough. We probably need to think about putting in some sort of trailer would be a good idea, but I don't know. So he did 2 trips anyway. I cut that out because seeing me transport his tanker backwards and forwards across the moon's surface, I did it and I was bored by it, I'm going to be honest. But maybe get him a little trailer in future, although I'm not entirely sure that putting things on the back of the fuel truck is a good idea. I don't know why. I mean, it's not like we've had any other problems with things attached to the fuel truck, obviously. Anyway, we send the Moon tanker back up into orbit. It's going to go to the orbital station, to Moon Station 1, and it's going to dock there while we think about, you know, do we want to put any sort of fuel truck down on the Moon just to help out? I mean, we could actually send just another tanker truck down. I'd have a 2-headed one, and it's much easier to navigate and control. Or alternatively, and I did think about this, we could actually just use the other, the tank, storage tank that isn't a fuel tanker, was never a fuel tanker. That's got that, looks a bit like it, same sort of design, but was never designed to be a fuel tanker, and we didn't have any accidents with at all. No accidents at all about that. No, we could use that. So I don't know. It's an opportunity. It's a possibility. But no matter what, I think we might need to put another tank of some sort on the Moon. But I may do that off camera, because you see me land a lot of stuff on the Moon, and it gets a bit tedious. So the Moon tanker gets up into orbit, gets into its circularization, and it's just going to do a nice simple transfer now. And around the Moon, this has actually become really nice and easy. You can do what the Moon is very forgiving on things like this. It's pretty easy to do these rendezvous. Your relative speeds tend to not be that different because it's a smaller body. So here we go, coming in, and we just park it sort of alongside, and then we try and decide which node do we want to stick it on. And I have decided to go for just the easy dock, which is from above. Ironically, probably would have been easier just parking it on the opposite node to the other tanker craft there, because we were already in sort of line to do that. We just had to move sideways, translate one direction. This has involved a little bit more work, but anyway. As always, the easiest thing is to stick your camera behind, and then you just go down and use the nav ball a little bit. I do not do that because I'm just being lazy and annoying. So if we look at the nav ball, you want to get your prograde, your target marker, and your main pointy bit there lined up, and I am not doing that. I am just fighting it. I've pulled in everything I can, and you see there, I'm just not taking my time. I just need to do it. There we go. No, not again. Yeah. Take your time with the docking, sea monsters, I think is the vibe here. Backwards and forwards. I don't know how many times I've actually now just missed the docking port. So I'm getting better now. You can see we just, in there we go, and there. So you can see easily when you're actually going to get it right. that was a terrible, terrible example of docking, and I apologise profusely. This craft is well balanced, and I should not have taken that much time because I wasn't following my own rules. And what do we know? You take your time with docking because you've got to think about what you're doing. So, sea monsters, work on that. Anyway, while that's been going on, back at Kerbin, it is time to finally send the mining rig off to Minmus. I don't actually know how long this thing has been basically either launched or floating around in orbit. It feels like it's been episodes. And it's now time to send it, so we're just going to do it. I had a mind to actually put a lot of things into orbit of Kerbin and send them all together to Minmus. Just because I just want to do one transfer, but in reality I want to actually test that this thing works first of all, that these crafts work, and I know they probably should. I know these landers should work, but if they don't for any reason, we know. So this is going to head off towards Minmus, and it can do all of the mining on its own, so I don't really need to send anything else down. Maybe a crew down to attach cables and stuff, but the one other thing that I do need to send is a tanker craft. So this is the one we sent up last time. This is the tanker from previous episode, and again, this is just a modification of pretty much the new tanker that's at the Mun, with that sort of rear section that is actually from our Gemini craft. So it's a Gemini rear section with a new tanker section on the top there, and that's what it is. We haven't actually done anything new with this thing. It's got landing legs put on it, and that's about it. And it's just going to fire its way off. And both of these, I'm actually trying to do a direct transfer, and it's part of the reason that that it's actually been a while before I've set them on departure, because I'm trying to do a transfer at ascending and descending node, which means I won't need to do a plane change in the middle of the transfer because, well, I'm being lazy. And it's also, I think, a little more efficient, although you end up having to do some plane change around Minmus. Anyway, our little tanker is going to get back to base, and you can see we've got, you know, the base is just working away. It's a bit dark down there because I think it's actually in the dark at the moment. With the arrival of the new Mun truck, though, the Mun fueling truck, though, we do actually have a lot of crew down on there. So we've got Isaac and Gwyn down there, and we've also now got Wenrick. So we don't need all of them down there. So we're going to get them back up because, well, we've got a lot of things we want to do. We want to go a lot of places. So we're going to send down our little runabout, and that's going to collect Isaac and Gwyn. The idea being that we've got one Kerbal down there, which I'm not a big fan of leaving one Kerbal, because if I have a glitch when he's doing anything with a Mun tanker or anything and he gets fired off into space, well, then the mining outpost doesn't have anybody. But equally, oh, that's very loud. Equally, we can always send someone down from orbit if we need to. So we need at least to have one person in orbit at all times, and at least one person down on the surface. And the runabout overshoots. And I start to think at this point, I'm going to move the Kerbals to this, and I don't want it to be absolutely everywhere. And yeah, we're wasting fuel at this point. Yeah, this thing doesn't have much fuel, but it's a waste of fuel. And you look at that, I've just done loop-de-loop for no apparent reason. It's obviously uncrewed, so yeah, I probably, you know what, if I was better at this game, or actually let me correct that, if I was better at the YouTube thing, I'd have cut that out, because he wouldn't then have seen me do one of possibly the worst things you can do, which is basically spin around in circles above a planet or a moon. That was a real waste. So this was one of the worst accuracy landings I've actually done for a long time, and I don't know why, because yeah, it's gone up and down. And I decided at this point, you know what, I'm just going to just go for a landing, because I was originally going to try and RCS it as close as possible, so I didn't have to walk the Kerbals around so much. But in the end, I just wanted to put the thing down because it was getting silly. I was also starting to worry about fuel going back up, but we won't say anything about that. So I then had to walk across Isaac and Gwen and get them into the crew compartments, and then this was a bit of a sort of lining them up and doing all that, and and it just took time. And this is actually yeah, this bit here is real time, but the rest of this has been sort of sped up 4 to 8 times, and then we've got Gwen coming in, and I've cut out the walking because that might not look like a long distance, but for these Kerbals it was an awfully long distance, and Gwen decided she was going to headbutt that. I'm not sure we actually need Kerbals for any of this because they're not being particularly bright. Anyway, the craft is, the little runabout takes off, and the aim for it now is to basically get into orbit and sort itself out. So we're just, interestingly, I've got it set to target because we've already targeted something, but we're going to send it up into orbit and try and dock it with the station. And I'm not going to basically waste too much of your time doing this, but just going to say the following. When this actually docks, we're going to end up with 5 crew on the Moon Station, and we only need 1 up there. So we're going to have to send at least, well, probably 4 of them back down to Kerbin or to do something else. So while we dock this, until next time, have a great one.